I have the luxury and obligation to join you from abroad. I'm in beautiful Italy, and I have just excused myself from my lecture for half an hour. And this evening and tomorrow, we're at the Horizon project, which is a project that follows up the VitaFit issues, actually. So thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to give you a little bit of a review because we left the project a while ago, particularly Neustadt. In cooperation with Neustadt and Keisenheim, we looked at the economic view of these new varieties. And we looked at sales and costs. And so you can see here what we wanted to do, both in quantitative and in qualitative aspects, which we examined using a variety of different methods. So we tried to record data in a digital way and also in workshop surveys and also by carrying out additional analysis. So both surveys and media and observations with several methods. And here are the results. We started with the strategic question and also the results of the comprehensive survey. We planned 3 years, but 1 year did not allow us to bring the results from the digital results. We then had to change suppliers, and that brought an improvement for the following years. So the first thing that you can see here is a panel where we asked producers how they feel about PIWI. And to our surprise, despite so that it wasn't quite clear, 60% of those surveyed had already cultivated PIWIs and were interested in continuing to do so. So the population saw a strong drive towards PIWIs. We saw that mainly those who saw themselves as pioneers and positioned themselves in the market as pioneers saw PIWIs as relevant, and this also supported their innovation drive. And the reasons for cultivating PIWIs was not so much to prove the sustainability of PIWIs, but to optimize costs and processes. Costs 38%, processes were also improved by 31%, and also this in view of the effects of climate change. So there was a strong perception that said that PIWIs could be a good solution. We then asked about the strategic positioning, and you may not be surprised by this, but this once again shows that apart from the cost leaders and the niche strategists, most players looked at price-performance ratios. And the premium strategy, the operations with premium strategies were least interested in PIWIs. But when you hear that the ministry promoted PIWI at events where there are a lot of premium suppliers, and this shows that the support should be in activities that address the future of wines. There were some workshops. I wasn't able to see Christoph's presentation, but I'm sure he said something similar. So there was a little bit of a vicious cycle where producers said there was no demand, and those who were on the demand side said there was no supply. And we want to break that cycle. And that is why we started retail projects. First of all, to Cabernet Blanc at Rewe supermarkets in order to market these wines across Germany to see how they would be received. And you can see that there were two copycat products, so this actually had an effect. And we did that with other producers in food retail, in supermarkets, where we also introduced these concepts because we saw that there's not just one way of marketing PIWIs, but several. I just heard that Christoph said that we should not just talk about a concept, but about a marketing-supported branding. And that's what we did. And so far, all of the activities have been at least partially successful. And those that became established in the market were very happy with the demand. The second part is here are some results that we've already communicated in the past. And these show, this may be not that surprising, but it shows what we've done. We were able to get several operations to enter the data into our database across the vegetation period for all kinds of varieties, both PIWIs and others. And they often said that PIWIs are treated just like traditional varieties. And they looked at whether there's less labor involved, whether it's less labor intensive, etc. And we had 390 hectares as a databasis, 10% PIWIs. So this is quite conclusive. And you can see here the 2 years under observation, 21 and 22. And in both years, the wine growers that were part of the experiment were able to see a strong reduction of plant protection for their PIWIs of up to 80%. You can see that this was mainly true for organic wine growers. And this analysis also showed us that the varieties under observation also had a strong price pressure when there was more yield. And this is another argument for in favor of the new varieties. Mr. Dressler, may I interrupt? We still see the first slide. So I think we'll just run the slides from here. So if you tell us which slide you're on and then always tell us when to go on to the next slide, we'll do that from here, because at the moment we can't see the slides that you're actually referring to. Oh, I'm very sorry, but thank you for letting me know. Well, you can all get the presentation afterwards, so you will be able to refer to it later. I'm on slide 13 now, and here and this shows the cost situation for two varieties, two traditional varieties, and also the yield. So you always tell us when to click to the next slide. Okay, so I'll just show this slide for a moment. And I said here that we were not surprised that when we use less crop protection, we save costs. This was considerable, but however, it was not a surprise. And we know that the crop protection costs are still not the largest part of costs of a wine growing operation. But sometimes we also have to use the smallest potential. And we were able to see that there's also a positive effect of the earnings that you can see from the blue line. And on the next slide, you can see what I just showed in numbers. But this is just a reinforcement of what I just said. There was a considerable reduction of activities as well as costs. And if you could now go to slide 15, please. We calculated this because we wanted to look at the aspect of sustainability in a holistic approach. And here we compared the yield and the expenditure. And you can see that the new and robust varieties are much better in terms of efficiency than we saw on the cost side. And there was another effect added to this, which is a lower workload. Also, under the point of view, also taking into consideration time pressure. So in these 2 years under observation, both as far as costs side as well as the yield side showed a very favorable effect. Now slide 16 will give you the introduction of the marketing analysis. And this tried to look at market barriers. First of all, we looked at these 2 years and looked at which PIWI varieties are offered in the market. And then we try to find out which ones are recognizable as actual varieties or how many of them are cuvée. And we then looked and then took the marketing arguments into consideration too. Up until the time, there was a general opinion that PIWI could only be sold cheaply and could only be put into cuvées, and that you couldn't really talk about the advantages of PIWIs because this would contradict the same wine grower's other activities. So this table shows that the price position of PIWIs was almost exactly that of traditional varieties, both at the bottom end as well as at the top end. There are many products where single variety wines were marketed, just as many as cuvées, so both is possible. And then there are many that looked at the direct advantages and others that did not mention the advantages. And this shows can be put into action via different routes. So either by extending the brand, also to give this another driver, also to see them as an innovative element of a range of products. And you can see the 3 that were partners of the project. And so these were also the brand core of PIWIs. So we found enough cases from practice to allow us to say that PIWIs can be marketed. It's an entrepreneurial decision that depends on the strategy. There is another experiment, pages 19 and 20. Can we start with slide 19? And here, this survey looked at whether PIWIs could be conceivable as a modern product for export. There are many countries, such as Scandinavian countries, where sustainability is given more and more weight. And that is why in our first part of the survey, we asked about the criteria, the purchasing criteria, and sustainability is an important criterion, particularly internationally. And then we asked about the performance of German suppliers in each of these success factors. And you can see that Germans are seen as least sustainable and innovative, and those actually are the characteristics that we need in order to be successful internationally. On the next slide, you can see PIWIs that were linked with different concepts. And the experts that have an effect on those markets or know those markets very well were asked whether the PIWI could be marketed under the headline of sustainability made in Germany or with a stereotype with lederhosen kind of thing. And so we used a concept that the French have been very successful with, where they just played with the prejudices of their nation. And they showed frog-eating French people on the label, and that was a lifestyle product. So in conclusion, you can see here that stereotypes are not accepted that well by the partners, but sustainability, lifestyle, and PIWI being linked can create a competitive advantage. And we do have quite a lot of competition with regional certifications, and we now have a competitive disadvantage that we could actually counterbalance with PIWIs. I would now like to conclude my presentation with three charts. Page 21 shows that sustainability measures have increased quite a lot amongst wine growers. Everyone's talking about sustainability. But the next chart also shows that the complexity is immense. And the project and our own involvement in the project showed that PIWIs are a lever that's easy to control and that helps us to supply sustainability. And that is why now slide 23, we can see that certain varieties can help increase sustainability and reduce copper application. But we should not think that we shouldn't dare say what they actually can offer, but we should really be, we believe in PIWIs also being very good wines whose sensory attributes are excellent. And this is something that we have had confirmed in our survey. There is a very rich and diverse opportunity to do this. And we've seen that over the last few couple of weeks, PIWIs have become more prevalent. The next three slides are a list of all the presentations and articles in the expert press. So this is the end of my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And I would also like to offer my apologies for the technical difficulties. And you probably can only see me very hazily because unfortunately, my computer fell on the floor and is slightly broken. But thank you very much for your attention.
Ja, vielen Dank, Herr Dressler. Nachher zum Schluss.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dressler. So towards the end, we were able to see the right slides. So are there any questions from the audience here in the room or from the chat? Well, I have a question. On one of the slides at the end, we saw that there's a reduction in copper use, and there's always a question of how to advertise for PIWIs. And if you use the term fungus resistance varieties, you have to explain what you're doing, and you have to admit to using crop protection products. People don't like that. They think that a natural product does not need crop protection products anymore at all. So how can you deal with that? Well, there's one slide where we questioned these marketing approaches, and more than 1,000 products were examined, and more than 1/3 of producers referred to the improved crop protections. 2/3 did not do that. So I believe that both options are possible. I wouldn't write on the label less crop protection, but when marketing in our marketing project, we tried to create videos, explanatory videos, and where we explained the whole matter. And as soon as you can educate people about this, it's not a problem at all. It's possible. So my answer is a little vague because basically I'm saying that both options are possible, but there are suppliers who do use this argument in their communication, and there seem to be consumers who can deal with it and who are not put off. So it's a little bit both, but a little bit of both. Okay, that's understandable. Are there